Hello mamas and some of you papas out there. This is a question that I get a lot on some of my co-sleeping videos. Now, if you followed my channel and have seen some of my other videos on co-sleeping, you'll know that I am a very big co-sleeping advocate, and I have done it with all 5 of my children with amazing success. I do get questions a lot on the dynamics of co-sleeping, how to do it safely, and I do have a video on that, and how to nurse while co-sleeping. I have a video on that as well. But there are a few different factors that I feel like a lot of people don't talk about when it comes to co-sleeping. And it's funny because, of course, it is very important to maintain the same level of intimacy that you had with your spouse, either during your pregnancy or pre-pregnancy. That's something that you want to get back. Now, I know immediately postpartum, you're not supposed to have sex for a while, and that's dependent on what your healthcare provider decides to tell you. The time frame differs anywhere from 4 weeks to 2 or 3 months out, and of course that also differs based on how you feel. For some women, the act of sex is very, very uncomfortable for weeks or months postpartum. It depends on your labor, it depends on your pregnancy. Of course, it depends on, your body image too. All of these factors come into play. So I'm not going to touch on a lot of those factors, though I am going to make a video on those at some point. So immediately postpartum, you're not actually supposed to have sex with your partner for a certain amount of time because you might introduce an infection. So you really should listen to your healthcare provider about that. Now, of course, there's a lot of different kind of intimacy that you can have with your significant other. And, it doesn't have to be actual sexual intercourse where you could introduce an infection. There is just a whole array of different things that you can do that will show your physical love to your partner without putting your body at risk. So that being said, immediately postpartum, you're not supposed to have actual intercourse, and you also have this new little baby that is taking up a lot of your time and probably a lot of your nighttime as well. So finding that time to actually be intimate is a little challenging, I will admit. It is probably one of the last things on your mind at that point, and you listen to your body. Give yourself the space to heal physically and emotionally from being pregnant and going through labor and birth and regaining that sense of sexuality. So that's very, very important to give yourself that space. When your baby starts getting more on a sleeping habit, your baby sleeps during certain points of either the day or night, and you do start having that desire to be physical with your significant other, and you get the okay from your healthcare provider. So what do? Your baby's in bed. So that takes up a space that a lot of people normally look at as the space where they can be intimate with their significant other. So here's my suggestions. Be creative. Be creative. Now, as we all know, sex is not limited to the bed, and it's not limited to nighttime. So a lot of people have jobs that keep them away during the day. And whether it be the husband or the wife or both, families generally come together at night. And if you have other children, then it makes sense that intimate time would be when the other children are asleep. So you say, okay, I am really limited to nighttime after the children are asleep. When I co-sleep with my kids, what I usually do is I find that schedule that is perfect for my newborn. And it's something that I believe the mom and the newborn come together and kind of decide on in this unspoken language. There is a time that you guys will come together and realize that the baby is normally tired and it works for you to put them to sleep, and it's perfect. So usually that time has generally always fallen around 9 o'clock for me, whether newborn or older, and I usually nurse them to sleep. And if you've seen some of my other videos, some of my babies fall asleep in their swing or just, in my lap, and then I put them in bed. So either way, I am awake and the baby goes to sleep. Now, immediately postpartum, most times I nurse the baby to sleep and I just fall asleep. But again, that's immediately postpartum when I'm really not supposed to be having any kind of sex with my husband anyway, and I'm just too tired anyway. So it's just out of the question. But further down the line, 9 o'clock, I nurse my baby to sleep, and then I get up and I have time with my husband. Or if my older children are awake, I have time with them or personal time to do whatever it is that I need to do for myself. By no means am I saying that you should plan this kind of thing, because as we all know, this is stuff that just can't be planned. But my suggestion is to just be creative. You have a run of your house or your apartment. If you are living with other people, there are places that I know you can steal away to. And I can tell you that a lot of times switching things up like that, especially after an experience like introducing a new dynamic into your life, switching up your sex life and creating a new fun habit or routine or just this crazy random sporadicness in it can introduce this new element of passion and excitement into your sex life. I've mentioned this before in other videos. When you have a new baby, you have this massive life change. And that is such a beautiful time to take advantage of other changes in your life. To really say, okay, I'm having this change. It's like this dynamic change overhaul. And it's a great time to introduce new things because then they all kind of come together as a new norm as you progress further along. So I hope that makes sense, but you can take advantage of that change to introduce other changes because then, your life is already kind of chaotic and it's a good time to implement new stuff. It really is. But I think a lot of people have this time and space of intimacy closed up in a box. And I just want to remind you that even if you guys have been married for 20 years and you have 5 kids, or if it's, a more new relationship, adding a new dynamic into your life, like a baby, getting into kind of a new routine, kind of calls for a new routine for your intimacy as well. So there are exceptions. If you're going through postpartum depression or baby blues, I would definitely suggest holding on to as much comfort as you can, things that are very familiar, because that will help you transition out of that mild depression. But if you are doing okay and you're transitioning well through these new dynamics, then I say start introducing new things into your life, things that will enhance your life in positive ways. One of those things is making sure that you keep the intimacy alive in your relationship. A lot of women have a really hard time keeping up with that intimacy and feeling connected to their spouse through such a life change. But if you're creative and you stay open to different kinds of intimacy, whether it be just snuggling, having that time with your husband, even if you're co-sleeping, it's easy to roll over and just snuggle. I implore you to be creative. Keep up that intimacy with your significant other because, again, your relationship is the backbone of your family. And finding new ways to love on each other and be with each other is so important, especially after you have a new baby. I wish you lots of love and fun with your husband, regardless of whether you're co-sleeping or not. So important to keep that intimacy up. And until next time, be well.